Welcome back. If you've only just joined us, you're watching the Daily Roundup with Nina. Now, the Debate Academy has enlisted the Namibian Debate Union to provide it with training services involving students from various schools across the country in debating sessions on diverse issues. Clinton Mwinyo, Namibia's country representative for national debating and public speaking, joins us to discuss his debating career and shed light on the overall significance of engaging in debates. Clinton, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Nina. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. To start with, Clinton, talk to us about, where and how your interest in debate started.
Well, it started off a few years ago. It was a learner from grade 8 at Windhoek High School. Generally, I started off as a Witani child and radio presenter. So then at school, I asked myself, what activity can I then participate in or take part in that can assist me to sort of nurture the talent that I hope to believe that I had. And then I ended up joining the debating and public speaking club, grade 8 to grade 12. Initially, it was a very, very not well-known society, and then only in grade 12, that's when the society actually ended up blooming, and the rest is history.
As they say. Yeah. And talk to us about how one would go about, preparation for debate and the importance of research.
So with regards to high school debates specifically, I would always say your closest friends are your debate partners. So when you're in high school, you are 3 members on a team. There's a proposition team and an opposition team. And in university, you were 2 members on a team. So I would say your biggest strength or your biggest help would be your partners. And with regards to research, I'd say it's a daily thing that you do. So little things, maybe you're reading the paper, you're watching the Daily Roundup, you are participating in, just general tournaments. You just read a book and you read the newspaper just to ensure that you're up to date with what's happening in the world.
Yeah. And how do you deal with opposing arguments, in debate without letting emotions interfere with logic? Because debates can get very heated sometimes.
Yes. So it's all about, at the end of the day, you are a human being. And being a human being, I always say it's normal to get nervous. The only problem is when your nerves take advantage of you. So to answer your question, I would always say that you have to strike a balance between making sense and also being appealing to your audience. So it doesn't help you get emotional or you get too angry or you get animated, because at the end of the day, you don't get your point across.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't raise your argument, you should just make sure your idea comes across clearly.
Yeah. And are there any specific topics or issues that you find particularly challenging to debate, Clinton?
I would say over the years, the 2 specific topics or themes that I usually used to struggle with was themes surrounding the environment and economics. The reason I would say so, it's not to say that they are generally or inherently difficult. I would say what makes them difficult is that maybe not spending enough time researching surrounding those specific topics. But then what allowed me to get over those specific themes was just, making sure I align myself with books or articles or podcasts specifically surrounding the environment and economics, which makes me well-versed and makes me prepared for those specific topics.
Yeah. And talk to us about how you adjust, your debating approach when, you're confronted with a strong counter-argument, and how do you maintain composure during a heated debate?
That's a very good question. So I would say, generally speaking, sometimes you'd come across really, really good speakers. So I remember over the years, especially when I was at university, you're going to South Africa, you're going to Zimbabwe, you're going up against these really, really good speakers across not just Africa, but the world. So generally, when they come up with really, really good, strong, well-analyzed, well-explained arguments, this is where you have to become strategic, where when they are the judges and the adjudicators, you then have to make a way up. You tell the judges, look, okay, they introduced this specific argument, they explained it like this. Then you have to reiterate what your case was, and you have to show the judge, you have to explain to the judge what makes your ideas a little bit more important than those really good ideas that were brought forth by the opposition team.
I want to talk about one of your most memorable experiences debating.
I have a couple, but one that specifically stands out to me, I remember it's when I was second year specifically, I was a second year LLB student. I went to Cape Town with my debate partner at the time, Emma Theophilus, who's currently also the Deputy Minister. What made that tournament unique was that I remember we were going up against our training officer at the time. He was a 4th year law student. But then before the tournament, he had told me, if we meet each other in the preliminary rounds, it will mean one of two things. It's either they're having a bad tournament or we're having a good tournament.
Right.
Ironically, we met each other in round 9, but how that tournament ended was that my training officer and the partner ended up winning the tournament, and then myself and my partner also qualified, but then we ended up falling out in the octo-finals, actually. But what made that experience so unique was that every round that you'd go to, the more difficult the topics were, the more challenging the speakers were. So it sort of allowed you to just dig deeper and for you to think, you know, your critical thinking, everything that you had studied, that you've prepared for, you'd have to just make sure you throw the kitchen sink at the judges and ensure that, you know, you just make it so far.
Yeah, this is also a great way to sort of, you know, build that general knowledge skill of yours, isn't it?
Yes, generally, I always say with debating, it's all about general everyday conversation. I always say it's not debate. People have this misconception that debating is about someone being right and someone being wrong.
Correct.
Actually, debate is about problem solving. So sometimes when you have conversations with people on an everyday basis, it's always about there's a conclusion to the argument. When you're sitting in meetings or you're having discussions, you'll always say there are two different ideas. Maybe all ideas are really relevant, but it's about finding common ground. So because of the sport or the culture of debating, it then sort of prepares you mentally to understand and just harness and grasp that critical thinking element that can assist you in everyday life.
That's a great way to think of it, as, you know, being able to problem solve. That's what it's for. Talk to us about, actually give me your opinion rather, on why you think it's beneficial for young people to participate in debating contests.
Okay, so in short, I would say that generally, who qualifies to be a debater? I would say essentially when you think about that lecturer or that teacher that tells you who wants to present, are there any volunteers, and then you look away, your heart starts racing, that means debating is for you. Because generally you're not born a debater. These are skills that you grow, and these are skills that you develop when you're part of a debating society. So generally, I would say if you are nervous, you want to face your fears of public speaking, of engaging or facing an audience, then debate is exactly for you. So then for me, generally, that's a skill that will help you. Not just, it also, you'll see it also has a spillover effect in your academics. You'll notice in your English and just your general confidence, and even after high school, after university, when you have to be reabsorbed in the working space. So you're going to have to apply. So then you're going to have to go for interviews, for example. So I generally believe that the one who has a debating background is prepared for any specific real life situation. So when you're in an interview, you're going to apply for a job, or even when you come to the daily roundup today, you're a little bit more prepared because of your background of debate. And that's the added advantage that I feel other specific fields won't necessarily provide for you.
So what comes first, chicken or the egg? No, what comes first? Being able, you know, being a great debate public speaker that leads to you being a great debater, or being a great debater that leads to being a great public speaker?
I would say it starts off with public speaking, because with public speaking, it's a skill that can assist you even within your debating career, because with debating, it's more you being limited to the rules, like maybe you just have 7 minutes to give this specific speech, and your speech should be limited to this specific topic. Whereas on the other hand, with public speaking is sort of who you are. It's that personality that you have. I always feel like every specific person has a personality. So it's sort of like, I think of a bathtub. You just need to remove that clog, you know, for that, that personality to come out. So with public speaking, it allows your inner self to come out, and thankfully, because of debating and public speaking, it allowed my personality to also come out. And I've been grateful and thankful to see a lot of people's personalities come out as well, because you meet people, they're very shy and they're soft-spoken, and then after teaching them debate, then you start seeing the real person coming out.
And then they bloom.
Then they bloom.
Clinton, it was lovely having you here with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Nina.
Well, there you have it. That was Clinton Munoz speaking to us there. We're going to take another brief break. When we come back, it's time for some entertainment this evening.